Today, we're diving into the story of a man who didn't just play the game of Indian business, he completely rewrote the rules. We're talking about Dhirubhai Ambani, the founder of Reliance. His story is one of incredible ambition, genius-level strategy, and a kind of corporate warfare that India had never seen before. So let's break down the Ambani playbook. And right from the start, this single quote tells you almost everything you need to know about his mindset. He was a pure pragmatist. For him, the goal was everything. He believed business was a game, and if winning meant checking your ego at the door, well, so be it. But here's where the story gets really complicated, because there are two totally different versions of Dhirubhai Ambani. Was he a visionary who built a corporate empire and made millions of ordinary people shareholders for the first time? Or was he a master manipulator who bent the entire system to his will and basically normalized crony capitalism? The real story, of course, is somewhere in the tension between those two extremes. To really get who this guy was, you gotta go way, way back. Long before Reliance was even a thought, his legendary business instincts were being sharpened in the chaotic markets of a foreign port city. This is where he learned to love risk. You know, he wasn't born into wealth or power, not even close. He was the son of a schoolteacher from a small village. But at just 16 years old, he heads out to Aden, which at the time was this bustling British-controlled port in Yemen. And it's there, working as a simple clerk, that he gets a real-world PhD in global trade, in speculation, and most importantly, in how to spot an opportunity that literally everyone else is missing. Okay, so check this out. This is one of his first and maybe most famous hustles. He noticed something simple. The actual silver in the Yemeni rial coins was worth more than the face value of the coin itself. So what does he do? He starts buying up all the reals he can find, melts them down into silver bars, and then sells those bars to bullion dealers in London for a huge profit. It's pure arbitrage, and it's the perfect example of his genius for finding a loophole in the system and exploiting it for all it's worth. Now, when Ambani got back to India in 1958, the business environment was completely different. It was a maze of government controls called the license rush. For most entrepreneurs, it was a total nightmare. But for Ambani, for him, it was the entire game board. So what exactly was this license rush? Well, think of it like this. To do almost anything in business, start a factory, import machinery, expand production, you needed a government license. And that gave politicians and bureaucrats an insane amount of power. Success wasn't just about having a great idea, it was about knowing the right people and understanding how to work the system, or how to bend it. And this was his playbook for mastering that system. It was nothing short of revolutionary. Yeah, he made powerful friends and exploited every loophole he could find. But the real masterstroke, the game changer, was bypassing the big banks altogether. He went straight to the people, creating what became known as an equity cult, turning millions of middle-class Indians into his company's biggest investors and fiercest defenders. Just let that number sink in for a second. 1.2 million shareholders. By the mid-80s, that was the largest shareholder base for any single company on the entire planet. And this gave Ambani two incredible things: a massive war chest of capital and an army of loyal supporters. Think about it. If the government tried to mess with Ambani, they were messing with the life savings of over 1 million of their own citizens. It was a brilliant political shield. Okay, so all of this sets the stage for the most dramatic, most insane chapter of his story: the Great Polyester War. And trust me, this was not your typical business rivalry. This was an all-out war, fought in the media, in the halls of government, and it even involved international spies. And here are the fighters. In one corner, you've got Dhirubhai, the ultimate outsider, the upstart whose power came from the street and from his millions of shareholders. And in the other corner, you have Nasli Wadia, the head of the powerful, established Bombay Dyeing. He was an aristocrat, old money, the very definition of the business establishment that looked down on guys like Ambani. This was a true clash of two different worlds. And if you think this was just about selling polyester, think again. The battle was over a key raw material called DMT. But this quote from a government minister at the time says it all. Their corporate feud got so intense that it was literally influencing national policy and deciding the careers of top politicians. And the tactics they used? Absolutely wild. This war was fought on every front imaginable. You had brutal takedown articles in the newspapers. You had vicious lobbying in the government to change import rules to help one side and cripple the other. It even went international, with the hiring of a U.S. detective agency to dig up dirt. And then it got really, really dark, with a Reliance executive being arrested for allegedly plotting to have Nusili Wadia assassinated. So, after all the battles, all the growth, all the controversy, what are we left with? What is Dhirubhai Ambani's real legacy? We're right back to that central question. Was he a brilliant disruptor who took on a rigid system, or was he a corrupter who just learned to play that broken system better than anyone else? The verdict is completely split, right down the middle. The case for him is powerful. He built India's biggest company, created massive wealth for the middle class, and became a symbol of a new can-do India. But the case against him is just as strong, that all this success came at the cost of subverting institutions, crushing rivals, and normalizing a level of corporate corruption that still echoes today. And here's the key, you can't really separate the two. They are totally connected. And that leaves us with this final, central question. When you're operating in a system that's already corrupt, what does it mean to win? Did Dhirubhai Ambani break that system, or did he just become its most successful, most powerful product? Maybe the answer is both. He was a product of the license Raj for sure, but by creating a true capital market of the people, he also helped plant the seeds of its destruction. And that very contradiction is the complicated and honestly, the fascinating legacy he left behind.